In the 1980s, director-producer Ivan Reitman helped alter the way Hollywood was making comedies. He produced Animal House and directed Meatballs, Stripes, and Ghostbusters. Joining me now, Ivan Reitman. Welcome, sir. Great to have you here. What do you learn from other directors, movies you see made? What informs what you do?
Life. Sounds so big. Particularly in a comedy. You know, the best comedy comes out of sort of real situations which are slightly exaggerated, or where you skew things in just that way that we're reminded of the comedy of life. And I'm always trying to find that thing, you know.
What's that thing?
That thing that makes the scene more delicious. Think of that thing that twists it a little bit so that the audience on a very regular basis is chuckling or laughing, hopefully. And that's a tremendous pressure, both on the performers and particularly on the director.
Your move, creep. Creep.
I have come here to chew bubblegum and kick ass. And I'm all out of bubblegum.
Flying saucers, which are really, yeah, you got it, time machines. I think a lot about this kind of stuff.
You think this is the real Quaid? It is.
All right, welcome back to Terrortinos. This is the movie discussion podcast where it's hosted by two childhood friends. My name is Mike Morales, and I'm here with
Angel Eat Your Heart Out DeLeon.
And so this is a podcast kind of dedicated to the films that we grew up on. We like to talk about these things. And in this episode, we want to talk about Ivan Reitman, a legendary filmmaker who passed away almost a month ago. We just want to really kind of dedicate this episode on his filmography, talk about his life, his career, his comedies. I think particularly for someone like us who grew up in the 80s and 90s, Ivan Reitman was kind of this icon. Certainly his films meant a lot to us, and I think we should talk about it a little bit. What was your feelings about Ivan Reitman, Angel?
Well, it's weird because it's not like he lived next door and he was a friend or anything. But when you see so much of a person through all of their works, you know, from his storytelling to his directing, some of his acting, you get almost like get a good understanding of what kind of person they are. Mm-hmm. And he just seemed really, really down to earth. I liked his style. A lot of his humor was. It was complex enough to, you wouldn't call it like stupid humor, but it wasn't so much so that it took forever to get it. Mm-hmm. It was very relatable. You know, his stories were good. They were clean. I dug it. And over the course of my lifetime, I had watched him make his movies, and it's almost like growing up with his arc of craft. You know what I mean? So when I was a kid, it was certain slapstick movies, and as I got older, it almost seemed like he was gearing them more towards me as my life went on.
Yeah, I would agree. I mean, I think Ivan Reitman was, you know, someone who kind of like a lot of great comedian, or at least great comic filmmakers, they come onto the scene, they break out, and they kind of plant their flag and say, we're going to change up the idea of what comedy is. And this is what Ivan Reitman did in the 80s and 90s. And he might not be my only comic influence. I mean, I would put a lot of other filmmakers and comedians on that list, but he certainly was one of the guys who I suppose shaped my own kind of comic sensibilities. I think his movies really made me understand what comedy was and is, and what was funny. And I think that's why I felt this kind of sadness when I heard about his passing. You know, I was watching the Super Bowl. And already the Super Bowl was kind of filled with nostalgia anyway. I mean, it had one of the great halftime shows with Dr. Dre and all that. And I'm like, oh, this is the music I listen to. And during the Super Bowl was like all these commercials were like references to 90s films like Cable Guy and what was it? Oh, Austin Powers, right? And so that night I heard that he passed away. I'm like, oh shit, that's horrible. I mean, and I'm like, oh, you know, it maybe we kind of reflect on my own kind of idea of what these filmmakers did. And unfortunately, I think this may be a sign of like a lot of these guys are growing older and maybe getting into retirement. And, you know, it should be a time to celebrate them now, I guess.
Yeah, it's funny that you made the Super Bowl reference because I like football, so that's what they're saying. It's like now that Brady's retiring, they have the whole group of eclectic quarterbacks. Manning, Roethlisberger, all this. It's like a class of these guys that we grew up with, and he was like the last one. And then they showed these new guys coming in, and it's like they're kind of handing the torch off.
Mm-hmm, yeah.
You're right. This is going to be the era where the great directors and just the well-known guys, they're going to start to go because they're hitting that kind of that age bracket where it's just time.
Yeah. We grew up with these guys. We saw how their careers shaped the landscape of our entertainment. And Ivan Reitman certainly was a part of that. And thinking about his filmography, and I think there's maybe two major stages in his career. There's that early stage with his collaboration with Bill Murray, and that second collaboration stage with Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Yeah, so there's like the before Ghostbusters 2 and after Ghostbusters 2.
Yeah, it was like Meatballs, Stripes, Ghostbusters, that's all Bill Murray. And then later in the late 80s and 90s, it was his work with Arnold Schwarzenegger with Twins, Kindergarten Cop, Junior, and all that. And then I guess in the 2000s, he did a couple movies, but they didn't really take off as earlier films. But I would say that I would lean more towards the era of Arnold Schwarzenegger than say Bill Murray. And that's not to say that I didn't love the Bill Murray movies. I love those.
They were just a little too young.
Yeah. And also Arnold was such an icon, and to see him try comedy for the first time with Ivan Reitman directing in Twins, it was a cultural shakeup.
Needless to say, Twins is a comedy. For Schwarzenegger, his first.
It was great. It's a change of pace, obviously, instead of shooting around with machine guns and throwing explosives and so to finally do something that is, we have to rely totally on acting. So it was very refreshing.
Twins puts DeVito and Schwarzenegger in the hands of Ghostbusters director Ivan Reitman, who had the idea to cast against type.
I don't think I would have made the film with anyone else. I met them each separately in 1 week, and sort of their images stuck in my brain, and I just thought it would be great to have them together in the film, and it was really written exclusively for them.
It changed my outlook of what Arnold was as an actor and a kind of action star. He was this guy who's now doing comedy. It was a fantastic time watching Twins,
I guess you would say Schwarzenegger would have a lot to thank him for because he got him out of the typecast.
Yeah.
Because you got to think about how many movies Schwarzenegger did where the best one is the one where he was Hercules in New York. He didn't, you know what I mean? He was dubbed. That's how bad he was.
That's not Hercules. And who is that monster who looks as if he has come straight from the kingdom of the underworld?
Oh, no, this is a motion picture, a play. Really, you mustn't take yourself so seriously.
It doesn't even look like me. Look.
What are you doing? Oh, wow.
Like, there was a lot of them where he had 3-4 lines because he's just something to look at. And then he made it so that he could actually get his brand of humor out there, and it was really well received through the Reitman movies. It was the good setup, a good little two-word punchline for him. It was perfect.
Yeah, I think just to talk about a little bit about Arnold. He was this kind of action star, and I guess we kind of only knew him as either a killing machine or this superhero. I mean, he was either playing a futuristic killing machine or he was playing some kind of Conan the Barbarian type of character. He wasn't real. He was kind of almost non-human. And Ivan Reitman was like kind of the first filmmakers go, no, I think there's a human side to Arnold. There's a charismatic side to Arnold that I think will fit well in a comedy. And he proved it with Twins, and the pairing of Arnold with Danny DeVito was comedy gold.
You got to talk into the phone, bozo.
Vincent, dearest Vincent, I know you don't know who I am, but believe me, I came halfway across the world.
Whoa. I got another 6 hours to pay the money back. And tell the Claim brothers that harassing a man who's already in the slammer is beneath even them, all right?
I don't know any Claim brothers. I'm your brother, Julius.
Huh? Come again?
My name is Julius, and I'm your twin brother.
Oh, obviously. The moment I sat down, I thought I was looking into a mirror.
That was a movie that I enjoyed and watched many times. And I would say Twins might be my favorite, my favorite Ivan Reitman comedy. I know a lot of people love Ghostbusters, and I do too. And a lot of people love Stripes, and I do too.
But Twins, I love it because if it's on, it doesn't matter where it's at. You can just start watching it, and you can watch it all the way through every single time.
Yeah, there's something about Twins where I think I can relate to both characters, Julius and Vincent. Julius is the immigrant guy who came to America looking for his twin brother. And Vincent, Danny DeVito's character, he is the kind of the screw up.
I'm so glad this podcast doesn't have video, because to compare yourself to Schwarzenegger, I thought I was looking into a mirror.
So who am I? I'm the screw up.
Yeah, you're the leftovers.
Yeah. So I think you make a good point, because I think I do associate myself, or I do kind of feel for Vincent's storyline, although he's kind of like the curmudgeon, law-breaking backstabber. I just love that character.
Sorry, I was gonna say, yeah, because it's like one's got nothing, one's got it all, but even though the one that should have it all, he still feels empty. He feels like he's missing something. You know what I mean? I love that part of the storyline, and how like Reitman made it so that the whole grass is always greener, and the haves and the have-nots, and his life's perfect. Nah, he's just like us, dude. He's got things that he feels like he's missing, things that he'd like to do, things that he's afraid of. I like all that.
Also, Danny DeVito's performance in Twins is fantastic. It's hilarious. It is also very truthful. I mean, it's a flawed character, and that's the point of it.
Look at me. Do I look like someone who could play house? I mean, I'm cranky in the morning. I'm grouchy in the afternoon. I'm moody at night. I'm like miserable.
It's an Odd Couple type of comedy.
Oh, yeah. And
so Schwarzenegger, and this is actually really the first time we see Schwarzenegger as a human being and someone who's an immigrant. You take for granted that Schwarzenegger came from a different country,
Yeah.
You kind of see him as like kind of this iconic American superhero, yet he comes from from a different country, and he speaks a different language. And you see this kind of sensibilities in Twins. And for the first time, I think we got a really great human side of Arnold Schwarzenegger in Twins.
Take out the papers and the trash, or you don't get no spending cash. If you don't scrap that kitchen floor, you ain't gonna rock and roll no more. Yakety yak. Don't talk back.
And I think that's also why he works well with Ivan Reitman. Ivan Reitman was a guy who was born in Czechoslovakia, and he came to Canada when he was a very young boy. His parents was Jewish. They escaped Nazis. I believe Ivan Reitman's father was a resistant fighter, and his mother survived Auschwitz, the concentration camp. I mean, there's it was really tragic.
That's a lot of history. Yeah, dang, I didn't know that.
Really tragic history with him, and I think he uses that tragedy to really kind of turn that stuff into comedy.
Well, that would make sense. That would be like him and Schwarzenegger kind of both having the same American dream. You know what I mean? Like, people that dream about going somewhere and having, literally the quote unquote American dream, maybe the Canadian dream, you know what I mean? Just to get better. And so that would be that might be why they had such a good relationship through those movies.
Yeah, I think I absolutely agree. I think that's why they are, they were best friends. And I think Arnold was even talking about doing a sequel to Twins just a month ago or so. And he was talking to Ivan about possibly doing this, and he was working on a script and stuff like that. So yeah, it's just sad that Ivan Reitman's passed, and I think we should take a moment to really kind of appreciate all the stuff he did, and not just him. I mean, I guess all the filmmakers of that generation. And I don't know about the comedy films that comes out today. I mean,
well, if you ask me now, comedy is you got funny people and you put them in a funny scenario. Back then, comedy was a funny story. Plug in who you'd like to see play the characters and make them funny. You know what I mean? So one was let's get a good story and we're going to make it funny as it goes along. And the other one is going to be, let's put these comedians in funny spots and tie them all together with a story. You know what I mean? It's kind of like they reverse it now. It's like, they do it backwards instead of just straightforward and then plug people in.
Yeah, the comedies now are so centric at the performers and the sketch performers, and that story is only a second thought, and where the comedies in the 80s and 90s were kind of more driven by story, more driven by a type of character, a high concept character. Twins was a kind of a high concept buddy comedy. But there's something, Twins particularly, it was about, I believe, about family, about trying to find roots and trying to find, your place in the world. I mean, I think Twins, I looked up Twins in Rotten Tomatoes, and it gets a pretty bad score. And I'm like, why? I mean, what the fuck?
Yeah, I never go by that. I'd rather my friend tell me that it was good or bad, or just take a look for myself. But
it really seems to me like the new generation is not really connecting to these comedies.
Well, they sit down and their number one goal is to see why they're not going to like it.
Yeah, well, that's true. That's true. I was rewatching Twins, and I found myself getting really emotional at one particular scene. It's a scene where Julius and Vincent they just found out their mother is alive, and they went to go see the really asshole scientist.
Oh yeah.
Where he goes, to Julius, he goes, all the good stuff went to Julius, and all the shitty stuff went to Vincent, Danny DeVito's character.
He was the leftovers.
He was the leftovers, right?
Yeah.
All the purity and strength went into Julius. All the crap that was left over went into what you see in the mirror every morning.
Whoa. You telling me I'm the crap?
No, this is not true,
Well, wait a minute, Julius. I want to hear this. You telling me that I am the leftover crap, that I'm no good?
He's wrong.
Look at him.
Are you saying that I'm a side effect?
So the scene in the parking lot where Julius, Arnold Schwarzenegger's character, is talking to Danny DeVito, the Vincent character, and he's talking to him, and he says something about, I was taken to a beautiful island, I was cared for, I was educated.
And don't forget, I was taken to a beautiful island. I was loved, I was protected, educated. You had nobody, Vincent. Nobody to love you, to trust you, to encourage you. I mean, all life taught you was that the only person you could count on was yourself. See, Vincent, you're the missing part of my life. And I'm the missing part of your life. And when we find Mama, we can fill the missing part of hers. We won't be alone anymore. We can be a family.
And I'm like, oh my God, this is so fucking great. This is fantastic, And
it's like
it's so heartwarming,
Yeah.
And to see like Danny DeVito kind of realize that, oh shit, yeah, I do want family. And he's like, oh, you mean I could have a family? I could have a Christmas tree, a Thanksgiving dinner. And he goes, yes, absolutely. And I just got really touched by it. And I go, that's the crux of that movie. And that's why that movie is so important. And I don't care about the Rotten Tomatoes score and whatever. Fuck them. Fuck that. This is about loving your family members, despite all the kind of, bad.
You love their differences.
Yeah, it's like he comes. Arnold Schwarzenegger's character Julius comes from this island, and he's searching for his lost twin brother, and then he finds that he's like this cranky guy. He's a backstabber, but he doesn't care. He just happened to found his brother, and totally accepts him for who he is and who he has become, and totally understands it. And I think that's a beautiful.
He was making the excuses for him why, even like explaining to him why he shouldn't be so hard on himself.
Yeah. It's such a beautiful message, I think, and Julius is kind of he has this overwhelming optimism about these type of things, and it's very much like a immigrant optimism to come here to either America or Canada or whatever, and find a place to find roots and find a home and for your family. I was shocked at how good I thought the rewatch of watching Twins, and how much I was touched and moved by the story, even though it has some really crazy parts about the stolen car and the trunk, the thing in the trunk, all that kind of.
Yeah, you still got to give the people what they want.
To be honest, there's a hitman subplot and stuff like that, which is a little, it's a little crazy. But that's just to move the plot along. That's real. You really fall in love with these two characters.
Yeah, they played great off of each other.
Yeah, it's fantastic. Even Junior. I know people hate Junior, and sure, it's not as great as twins, and it's not as funny. But I still love seeing those two together. I wish they come back together and do something together.
Yeah.
What's your thoughts on Kindergarten Cop? Because I know you're a big fan of Kindergarten Cop, and
my little brother watched Kindergarten Cop maybe twice a day his whole life. And Kindergarten Cop was, to me, it was really good. I do enjoy the arc with Schwarzenegger again, but he went from this hard-nosed cop that'll stop at nothing to put this guy away. Then he becomes a kindergarten teacher.
Arnold Schwarzenegger is Kindergarten Cop.
Kindergarten is like the ocean. You don't want to turn your back on it.
Don't worry, everything is under control.
So he does the arc of all about me, all about my career, to becoming like a family man, almost adopting the kid who he's actually using as bait, technically.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, but just this movie, how my whole life, me and my brother, we always do movie lines. You did them with us too.
Yeah.
But this was the movie that my brother constantly did movie lines from. And it's just like whenever anything happened, he would bust out with something. And it would be just the stupidest thing. It's like, oh, Mom wants us to take out the trash. And he goes, you know what? Boys have boys have a penis and girls have a vagina. And I'm like, okay. So no on the trash. You know what I mean? Where are we with that? But constantly, like, even when he was the cop and he was like trying to torture the witness into testifying, and he goes, I have nothing to do. I'm the potty pooper. We're gonna be together. Holidays, weekends. And I'm like, dude, you gotta give it a rest. It's like he almost made me tired of watching the movie, and I wasn't watching the movie. But the story was great. And it's a basic story on Kindergarten Cop, but they'd never done it to the extreme like that. They would take like a regular looking dude and maybe make him a kindergarten. You wouldn't take the biggest, strongest guy you could find on, in the movies and make him a teacher, maybe some high school with like a Mr. Carter type of thing, but to make him like this pretty little school up in Oregon or something like that with little 5-year-olds, kindergartners.
Now let's everybody say good morning, Mr. Kimball.
Good morning, Mr. Kimball.
Good morning.
They're all yours. I'll be watching you.
Hi. How are you? I'm very happy to be here. First, I would like to just get to know you. Ha 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 ha. Quiet.
I think the casting was great on that flick too. The guy that plays the bad cop, he almost kind of looked like a weird version of Patrick Swayze, the bad dude.
Richard Tyson.
Yeah,
he played.
I hate that guy. I hate him in everything he does.
I thought he was great. I mean, he plays.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. He's great, and you hating him.
Well, I remember him in a movie called 3 O'Clock High, where he plays the bully.
Yes, dude, that's like his first thing. And it was the guy that played Casey on Young Guns.
Oh yeah. Casey Samasco. Casey Samasco.
Sabasco.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah.
Yeah. See, he was even a jerk back then, dude. That's maybe that's why I've always had that, because I know I saw 3 O'Clock High when it was like when I was real young, so maybe that's what it was. He always left that taste kind of where he was just a jerk.
You made me mad, Jerry. Now I'm gonna have to do something to work it off. Work it off? You and me, we're gonna have a fight today after school. 3 o'clock in the parking lot. You try and run, I'm gonna track you down. You go to a teacher, it's only gonna get worse. You sneak home, I'm gonna be under your bed. You and me, 3 o'clock.
Richard Tyson is a character actor or an actor who, I think this may be the height of his career, playing the villain in Kindergarten Cop, because I don't really see him anymore. I mean, I think I saw him really quick in Black Hawk Down. And
actually, it's funny. He was pretty good in Black Hawk Down. And he was a good guy.
And I think he was in a couple of Pete Farrelly or the Farrelly Brothers comedies. I certainly remember him in Kingpin, where he plays a strip club bouncer, where Randy Quaid gets lost and Woody Harrelson and the girl goes to the strip club and goes, "Hey, have you seen a big Amish guy come through here?" And the guy goes, "Kind of stupid." Well, feast your eyes.
Hey, you seen a big Amish guy come through here, 40-ish, stocky, sort of friendly?
Kind of stupid.
Well, naive.
Feast your eyes.
That was the guy. That was Richard Tyson. Yeah.
I'm looking at it right now, and for the credit on that movie, Kingpin, he's the owner of Stiffies. So yeah, that bar. If anybody needed to know, for I don't know, like what do they call it? Movie trivia. It's called Stiffies.
I'm gonna be totally honest. I didn't really when I rewatched Kindergarten Cop.
Don't say it. Don't say it.
I don't think it held up for me. Look, I love the idea that Arnold Schwarzenegger is playing with kids. I think that's the best thing about it. Yeah. And I think the movie is always going to be remembered for its movie quotes. I think this is going to be probably the best movie quoted movie or comedy, certainly in Ivan Reitman's career, because everyone remembers, I'm a cop, you idiot. I'm Detective John Kimball, and that's not a tumor, and
police school.
Shut up!
It's
shut
not
up.
a tumor.
You know what? I'll add a string of sound bites right here. I'll put all the quotes right now. Just boom.
It's like 45 minutes.
Freeze! I'm a cop, you idiot. I'm Detective John Kimball. This man is under arrest.
So who are you, man? Shit!
I'm the party pooper.
Boys have a penis, girls have a vagina.
Thanks for the tip.
This is your new class mascot.
What happened to your dog?
Now we're going to do something extremely fun. We're going to play a wonderful game called Who is My Daddy and What Does He Do?
What's the matter?
I have a headache.
It might be a tumor.
It's not a tumor. It's not a tumor at all. Stop whining. You kids are soft. You lack discipline. Well, I've got news for you. You're mine now. You belong to me. You're not gonna have your mommies run behind you anymore and wipe your little tushes. Oh, no. It's time now to turn this mush into muscles.
I'm not a policeman. I'm a princess.
Take your toy back to the carpet.
I'm not a policeman. I'm a princess.
Take it back!
All right.
Yeah, so I think this movie is going to be mostly remembered for that, because it is one of the most quotable movies, and that we, like you were saying, your brother was quoting all the time. We were quoting all the time. And
yeah,
go ahead.
I'm sure if I watch this for the first time now, like if I try to get my kids are like 14, 13, they might be like, oh, that was cool. But if it was a 25-year-old and never heard of it, sat them down and watched it, they'd be like, okay, like I don't think it would hit at all if they hadn't seen it when they were young.
I don't think people understand like the idea of Arnold Schwarzenegger playing against children and how funny that just concept is.
Yeah.
Because of Twins and because of Kindergarten Cop, action stars now do this. You've seen Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson do a kid-friendly movie with he's trying to teach little children. That comes up in his career.
Yeah. Even Vin Diesel did it. They got WWE stars doing it. Everybody's doing it. It's a good
premise.
It's a good formula. Yeah.
Yeah.
And kids love it. And guess what? Their parents got to take them to go watch it. So that's double the, it's asses in seats. That's what makes the money.
And that was because of Ivan Reitman and what Arnold Schwarzenegger did with certainly with Kindergarten Cop and also with Twins, just changing up the persona of an action star turning comedian, because these were the first times we ever seen this done. Usually an action star would just stay in that action genre,
yeah,
and a comedian will stay in a comedian genre, and they never would mix.
Well, what I like about Schwarzenegger a lot is he is his own straight man. You know what I mean? Like when he says the joke, he's the punchline, but he's also the straight man. And so it's like, wow. But you get used to it. That's what makes it funny. You know what I mean? I love it. Like when he's almost making fun of himself, it's It's great. And like he does subtle things like in Twins when he sees Stallone and in the poster and then he looks at his own arm and he just like he waves it. Yeah, like there's nothing.
There was this great story about how Arnold Schwarzenegger, because he had such an intense rivalry with Stallone.
But, during the heydays of action stars,
but they became good friends later in the 90s, and he was telling the story. I forgot which talk show, but he was talking about a story about how he was offered Mama Don't Shoot, or Hey Mom Don't
Stop or My Mom Will Shoot.
Stop, yeah. So Arnold Schwarzenegger was offered the starring role for the comedy Stop Mom, or what's it called again?
Stop or My Mom Will Shoot. Dude, they had the old lady from Golden Girls.
Right.
Still getting.
And that's an Ivan Reitman produced comedy, I believe. And that's probably the reason why he was offered this role. And he read the script for Stop or My Mom Would Shoot. And he just said this is one of the worst comedies ever. And so he passed it. And I guess they went to Sylvester Stallone.
Because they came to me because Hollywood knew that I was wanting to get out of just doing action movies and do comedies. That's why I did then Twins and Kindergarten Cop and movies like that. Thank you. But so they came to me with this other movie, and I forgot what it was called.
Stop or My Mother Will Shoot.
Stop or My Mom Will Shoot, exactly. Yes. That's right. And so I read the script, and it was a piece of I mean, let's be honest. And so I said to myself, I'm not going to do this movie. So then they went to Sly, and then Sly called me and he says, hey, have they ever talked to you about this movie? And I said, yeah. I said, I was thinking about doing it. I said, this is a really brilliant idea, this movie. And so when he heard that, because he was in competition, he immediately called him and says, look, whatever it takes, I do the movie. So he did the movie.
Wow.
And of course, the movie went major into the toilet.
Nice.
And he did it, and it was like one of the most, worst reviewed
comedies.
I know
I had to have seen it, but yeah, it was nothing to remember. It was like, it was one of those, let's see, like Cop and a Half. It's one of those.
yeah, that type.
Let's see if we can get anybody to pay for this. You know what? It's funny because we're talking about the classics on Reitman.
Mm-hmm, yeah.
It's almost like he stopped. It feels like he stopped after maybe early 90s, Kindergarten Cop-ish. But I got to tell you, some of his non-classics are a couple of those movies where it's almost like not that I'm embarrassed to say that I love, but that I really do enjoy. So I don't know if I can take a second just to throw two of them out there. Like,
that's good, dude.
Yeah, and I didn't even know that he did these until I was looking up his filmography. And okay, my first one is Evolution, and I think we were talking about this, the David Duchovny.
Yeah.
And Orlando Jones. I don't know why and Scott Stifler. That movie, it's not like I watched that movie and walked out knowing more about the world and feeling enlightened. But for that hour and 35 minutes, it was pure delight.
Ooh, how are you going in?
I might be able to catch it in his colon. All right, flip it!
I'll get the lubricant.
There's no time for lubricant.
There's always time for lubricant!
This summer,
Is there some sort of alien attack happening here?
have a nice end of the world. Evolution.
Good googa mugga.
I thought it was very hilarious. It was funny. It had its own little puns and gags. Dude, and I didn't know he put that one together, but so when I got to give him props. That's a movie I thoroughly enjoyed. I don't know what it did box office wise, but it was good for me. I dug it. And then, wait, did you like that one or no?
Yeah, I like that movie. I mean, I know I think it was critically panned. I don't think it did well in the box office, but it's a film that I think really says something about that time, and I think David Duchovny is somewhat of a low-key great comedian. I don't think he gets respect for his comedy chops. He's always just known for his X-Files stuff.
Yeah. And that's what I like is that he reached out and did that type of a role.
Yeah, and he kind of reminds me of that Bill Murray kind of snark a little bit. He's kind of a throwback. And
that was 2001, so that would be, I think it's before that show Californication and all that stuff, so I think this would be his big thing. Or the next thing after X-Files.
Yeah, I think this was the same year he kind of appeared in the Zoolander movie. Right? He was awesome in. So yeah, I think he was. It's just unfortunate. I think what happened was like I think people got more. I don't know. They maybe turned off by some of this kind of wacky comedies type of stuff, and you know, it's also the same year as 9/11. So I think after that happened, people got darker, more cynical, maybe. But I really appreciate it. It was like the heyday. It was a heyday of like CGI, and I actually watched it recently, and it kind of holds up. It's not the greatest, you know, special effects, but it still kind of holds up.
Yeah, it definitely feels like they didn't just throw something at the wall. They put some money and some effort into it.
Yeah, and also it's like what Ivan Reitman does best. It has this kind of ensemble cast. It has this kind of really great ensemble cast. That
because it's got Julie Moore in there. She was hilarious.
She was great. Yeah. So there's a lot of things to like about that movie, but it is. I think now it does feel a little bit like a time capsule. It really does feel like a 2001 movie. But
yeah, it's got a little niche.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. So what was the other one that you?
Oh man, I'm gonna get kicked out of. Like if I had any kind of say respect or clout, it's about to all go away. Dude, Super Ex-Girlfriend.
My Super Ex-Girlfriend.
Yeah, My Super Ex-Girlfriend, 2006.
This summer, if you thought breaking up was hard,
You rat! I got your back!
try breaking up with a superhero.
Don't let go. I hear you, homegirl. I got it.
What did you just call me?
Uma Thurman,
What do you call 911?
That was close.
Luke Wilson,
You gotta laugh to keep from crying, right?
My Super Ex-Girlfriend.
Deep down, I had a feeling that you'd realize your mistake and come back to me. That's why I didn't kill you.
Uma Thurman, who I love, dude. Do you remember when we were younger? It took us forever. We were looking for Even Cowgirls Get the Blues, where she was hitchhiking and she had them big old thumbs. Yeah, dude. For some reason, ever since like she was in the Pearl and Baron Munchausen, I've always loved Uma Thurman. Before Pulp Fiction, before all that.
Yeah.
So when I saw that she was going to be like a superhero chick, I was more than in. And then Luke Wilson, you know, he's all right. He's cool. Yeah. And then the premise I thought was hilarious because it's kind of like we always get the male superhero kind of thing, and he's a superhero and then he's a person. So it's like even when he's a person, it's like it's hidden his identity even from maybe a girlfriend or a spouse. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So this guy, so I liked that it was a girl and it was a guy, and then the guy's the one that without the superpowers, then he realizes, and then he actually breaks up with her. So he pisses off the most powerful person on the planet. You know what I mean? And I don't know. It's just, to me, it was funny. And I remember really liking it when I watched it. So it might have been a time where I needed something different, a different kind of funny in my life. Because I just remember enjoying it. And I was like, I knew when I was enjoying it, like all of this should be missing. Like every time I laugh, it should have been something that I was like, dude, that joke missed. But for some reason, the first time I saw it, it hit. And I remember watching it and how funny it was the first time I watched it. And I mean, it's got Anna Faris. And then the whole, when I was watching this, it linked it to Ivan Reitman's daughter that's in this, Catherine Reitman. And it was so funny because one of her credits was she's in Always Sunny in Philadelphia. She plays Maureen Ponderosa. They call her Dead Tooth. And it's so funny because as soon as they said that, I was looking at her and I'm like, you know what? I think she's good looking, but she all of a sudden looked like she could be related to Ivan Reitman. But it's just so funny because that I told you about a little while later that I linked that one, and it started showing a lot of her movie credits from when she was a kid that Reitman would put her in a lot of his movies, like as just like a kindergarten cop. She was played a third grader, and I think she was the baby in Ghostbusters 2. It's just,
yeah.
I think that's cool. Like, this was what he did for a living. He made movies, and the fact that he brought his children into it, you know what I mean? It kind of gave you an insight into how he felt about them. Oh, yeah, it's kind of like these are his movies, but these are such a part of him that he even wanted his family to be a part of it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, it's like he takes the film making business as like a family business, and he wants to pass that to his kids. I mean, Jason Reitman has become a really acclaimed filmmaker. He has done some really some terrific dramas, but also he recently did the latest Ghostbusters sequel.
Oh, yeah.
And it seems like, you know, Catherine is a comedian and an actress, so this all kind of becomes a part of a family business. It actually kind of reminds me of Francis Ford Coppola and the stories that, you know, he put his children in his movies. And like a lot of people complained about Sofia Coppola in The Godfather 3, but you kind of get it. You kind of get, like, you know, these are, you know, just like Ivan Reitman, just like Francis Ford Coppola, they're kind of these immigrant guys who come, you know, they have this immigrant sensibilities. And when you come from an immigrant background, you want to put your family in the stuff you're doing.
Yeah, you wanted to share in your wealth is their wealth, and let's, you know what I mean. Let's keep it going.
It's all family. It's all about family. It's all based on kind of like, let's do this all together. And I think
the only thing is the Coppola reference. Okay, only because you're talking about, okay, here's the two Coppolas that he got in: his daughter, Godfather 3, and Adrian from Rocky. There's a big difference in the acting on those two guys. You know what I mean? There's big. But I mean, I know what you're saying.
I mean, but you also see like Gary Marshall and Penny Marshall, their brother and sister.
That took me forever to put those ones together.
So it has happened before, and again, I mean, Italian Americans, you know, Ivan Reitman being from Czechoslovakia, you know, there's something about it kind of having an immigrant background, I guess.
And you got to know that, especially from their point of view, I bet you it's their parents, their mom. Their mom doesn't give a shit what they do because their mom, you know what I mean? You put your brother in a movie, you know what I mean? It's one of those things. I can see that happening, especially from an immigrant parent. She doesn't give a shit how famous you are. I'm going to tell you, you're going to put your kid in the movie. You're going to put my brother in your movie. You know what I mean?
Right. You give him a job. You give him something to do.
Give him something to do. He feels like he's just sitting here eating off of your plate. Let him make his own plate.
So yeah, and then also that, you know, with that, it becomes there's a sweetness to that too. I mean, I think, and that also reflects in his movies as well. I mean, I think his comedies really kind of reflect a family value, sweetness, and even though, you know, like his earlier stuff was more kind of you know, because he's famous for producing Animal House, and that's kind of a raunchy kind of college frat party comedy. There's an innocence to it anyway. You know, it's not there for shock value.
Yeah, my thing is kind of like with the bringing the kids into the movie. It's kind of like it's such a part of him that he's entrusting his family to it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That he wanted to share that with his family, you know, to his kids.
Yeah, I think also part of it is like, you know, when you make these type of movies, it takes so much time, so much of your time, and I think he doesn't want to be left away from his family. So the only way you could do that is have them near the set and have them in the movies. Yeah, again, I think this is just another reflection of what. I mean, I think Ivan Reitman has this reputation of someone who is very much loved in the community, in the film community. I haven't really heard a bad thing about him. People really loved his take as serving as a producer and someone who was so giving with his advice. Yeah, so there were so many stories about when he passed that he would just contact someone and tell them like, "Well, this is my ideas to make your film better," and they would accept it. Because it's Ivan Reitman, you know, you would be a fool.
Yeah,
you'd be
he knows what he's talking about.
Yeah, you'd be a fool not to take his advice, and really it was there because he wants to make, you know, the community better and makes these films better, and
which is good. It's a very unselfish approach, you know.
Yeah,
it's not like, hey, I'm going to keep all my secrets for myself. So every time they want a blockbuster type of movie that they got to come to me, it's kind of like, why would I keep this just for myself? It's like, I want to share this with people. I want people making these movies on their own. It's very selfless. I totally agree. It's like one of the last guys that like nobody has anything bad to say. He's just really for the love of the art and for the outcome. I don't know. I know what you're saying. It's a sad day when those types of legends leave us. You feel like someone, you know, someone a part of you is kind of a part of your childhood big one is just going.
It's also it's sad that someone's passed away, but it's also sad that that knowledge is gone too. You know.
Yeah.
What's your feelings on Dave the movie?
I watched it once, and I don't know if it's because of my political thing. I'm not a political person at all. Like almost to the point where it's embarrassing. Like, you know how people say don't talk about politics. It's not that I wouldn't talk about politics because I don't want to offend anybody. I don't know enough to get in a conversation. I did watch it. I love Sigourney Weaver, but I mean that's more from Aliens. Aliens, best sci-fi movie ever. But it was cool. It was campy. But yeah, I can't say
not your favorite.
Not a big fan.
Okay, I like the movie a lot. I think the movie's funny. You know, I would say this is not really a political comedy. I mean, it deals with politics because
president.
I
think that's what my mind said to stay away from it because I didn't see it when it first came out either.
Oh, okay.
It took a long time. This is one of my wife's favorite movies, which is hilarious, right? I love horror. She can't stand it. This really, she finally sat me down to watch one, and I might have been protesting wanting to watch something else, so I didn't give it a fair shake. But I do remember seeing it, but I saw it as like within the last 5 years.
Well, Kevin Kline plays a guy who looks like the president, and when the president has a stroke and becomes incapacitated, Kevin Kline gets hired to play the president. So it's not really necessarily like a kind of like political like that, but it's just kind of like this political fantasy thing and comedy thing, and yeah, it's fun. It's also kind of a romantic comedy because he falls in love with the first lady, who is Sigourney Weaver, and she, you know, doesn't realize that it's a actor. So, you know, you have to like kind of check your brain at the door, but it works in a way for this kind of, you know, fantasy romantic comedy thing.
Dude, I'm looking at the cast. I don't remember all these people, man. This is a huge cast, really. It is.
Watch it again. I mean, I think the relationship with Kevin Kline and Vin Rames, it was a really highlight of that movie. Vin Rames was fantastic. He was like, I think he was I want to say he's a security guard or what's it called?
Secret Service?
Yeah, I think he's a Secret Service guy.
Okay, I'm going to tell you something. I don't know. I've never liked Kevin Kline.
Oh, okay.
But you know what it was? I don't know what the first thing I saw him in was, but then finally I started getting into Westerns when I was younger.
Silverado?
And then I saw Silverado, and it totally redeemed him for me. And so I know I saw this after I saw Silverado, so maybe if I didn't hate him back then, I could have saw it earlier. Maybe I would have liked it better. But yeah, I want to say that Silverado and this were the only two movies I've ever seen of his.
Oh wow, really?
Yeah, I don't know what it is about him. Something I don't. I know. Like I said, now I have nothing against him. I actually like him. Silverado was amazing. But yeah, for a long time until I saw Silverado, I couldn't just even his name. I don't know. Maybe it was I got it confused with Calvin Klein. I have no idea.
Well, yeah, I mean, I could see it. I mean, I have certain actors who I kind of avoid too, you know, and like I don't understand their careers, so I get it. I get it. But I would recommend give Dave a second chance.
Oh yeah,
give it up. I think it's a very different type of movie for Ivan Reitman, and I think it's certainly a cult classic, and I guess it did well enough. I think people really enjoyed it. And it's considered one of his better films. But to me, yeah, like, you know, for us, I mean, it's Twins, it's Kindergarten Cop, and it's Ghostbusters. Those movies are going to define Ivan Reitman for us.
Yeah, like when you hear Ivan Reitman, that's who you think of.
And we should mention that our second episode was dedicated to Ghostbusters. So I would recommend, you know, if you want to hear our thoughts on Ghostbusters, go ahead and listen to that. And that's why we kind of avoided talking about Ghostbusters. Is there any other movies about that Ivan Reitman you want to talk about really quick?
No, I mean that's it. I mean you're doing a disservice if you don't go check out at least more than half of his just his directing alone. You know, he's so good. Just pull up his name on IMDb, like play Spin the Bottle, and whatever one it lands on, just give it a look, and it's going to be better than you thought it was. Especially when we revisit them, except for Kindergarten Cop, apparently, for some people. Even a revisit's worth it on those flicks. I'll watch Dave. I'll watch it, I swear.
All right, so I would say that just to cap off this episode of Ivan Reitman, our celebration of his work, I'll just say that I think he means a lot to us. He means a lot to this generation, and I think his humanity shows, his family values shows in his work. He is someone who I like I said, when I heard that story, or heard when I was logging online and I saw that the news that he passed away, I really felt like this was an end, or maybe the beginning of an end of a certain era of filmmakers, and I got pretty sad because that means like all our great movies are being forgotten, or maybe being, I don't know. It's a kind of a weird feeling, becoming older, I guess.
Yeah, I was gonna say my kids are true. They always call me old.
I would also agree to check out his filmography, check out some of the films. Ghostbusters 2, even Evolution and My Super Ex-Girlfriend. But Dave and Twins and Kindergarten Cop, and I would say Meatballs and Stripes too. I mean, those are his earlier films. And it's such a it's a small list of films, but something that really made an impact in our culture. And
even if you haven't seen them, you've heard of them.
Yeah, and he definitely influenced a whole lot of comedy filmmakers. Judd Apatow, or who's some of the other new ones that kind of are the followers of Ivan Reitman.
Would you say Rogan? Seth
Rogen? Sure, yeah, definitely.
Yeah, he's making some flicks, yeah.
Definitely. I think all these guys kind of are riding the coattails of Ivan Reitman and some of the other guys from the 80s and 90s, Yeah, definitely.
And I think they're smart too, because they're not just doing the huge blockbuster ones. They're doing movies that mean that might be personally mean a lot to them, and they're realizing that if you make it and it tells a good story, that you draw people in just by that alone,
Yeah. I mean, I think that what you could learn from Ivan Reitman was that he was such involved with the story. I mean, you hear these stories about how it took forever to come up with these scripts. He was always rewriting them, always in the production process. He was always fine tuning them into something until it get to a point where he was ready to shoot it. And I think that should be the greatest thing we take from Ivan Reitman, because some of the comedies that come out now, it feels like they just wrote it in 2 seconds.
I think some of them they did, or they looked to remake something that was already made. You know what I mean? One of those deals.
Really, it feels very lazy when it comes to some of the recent comedies. All right, so that was our episode of Ivan Reitman. We'll be back with a new episode, hopefully very soon. I mean, I know this episode took a while. I mean, we have some scheduling conflicts, but we're definitely going to try to have a steady flow of episodes coming out. And so we'll say...
Yeah, we don't want you to think we just do this. We're very important people. We got other stuff going on.
So I wanted to say that thank you for listening to Terrortinos, and keep listening. We'll have some great stuff in the future, and we'll talk about more stuff, more movies, and yeah.
Thank you to all the listener out there.
All right. And until next time, take it easy.